So welcome everybody, welcome back after the lunch. So today Andrew will tell us how to use agile methodologies and tools when working with Python projects. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Welcome everyone, thanks for coming. I hope you will enjoy the next 60 minutes. Today I would like to tell you something about agile methodology, some tips and tricks we have been using in our company in the last several months. My name is Andrew. I work for Turtle. We are a Python-based company. Most of our projects are right now based on Pyramid and Plone. We are an Italian company. We have also some office in Poland right now. But our experience, just to tell you something so you can imagine a little bit the road we have taken for the last months. We have started with Lotus development, something around 12 years ago. Then we have moved to Plone. Then we have started to be interested in other Python frameworks, and right now we are also doing some Pyramid stuff and trying to integrate a lot of things. So this is more or less about me and the company. I am not an agile guru, so if somebody here is super advanced in agile methodologies and in this kind of topics, probably I will tell some bullshit. So do not hesitate to just raise a hand and say that I'm saying something stupid, right? So that's not the point of this presentation. So let's start. Being agile, what it means to be an agile. So please raise a hand if you know something about different type of agile methodologies. Super, okay. So of course the most important thing is the manifesto. I have pointed out here things that are the most important ones. I will in a second list all of the 12 principles, but the most important for the agile approach, the first thing is the individuals and interactions. So the important thing is to not, to focus on everybody that is participating in the process, and also to focus on the interactions that happens between those actors. The second thing is the working software. So the most important thing is that what you are delivering is actually working. So probably everybody here has an iPhone or an Android phone, but you have never received a manual for it, right? So you just take the phone and it just works because you know how to use it, because it is a working software. So this is also one of the goals of an agile development. The customer collaboration, the point here is of course to involve as much as possible customer into the process, and also responding to change. This is really important. It means that the specification and the initial moment of your process is not the most important. The important is what you are actually delivering. So every action that happens, all the problems you have noticed during the process, you need to take under consideration and respond to them. So the 12 principles. I will really go fast here. The points that are the most important are bold. So the rest I will just fast forward. The first one is satisfy the customer, right? So this was one of our biggest mistakes, and probably a lot of other IT companies are doing the same thing. Is they are focusing they are focusing on the software itself. So it should be super cool. It should be very advanced. It should be on the edge. We should use very advanced technologies. But we are completely forgetting about the customer and what he is expecting and what he wants to have. So that's the first point. Next, it's the welcome and changing requirements. So what I already said before, you shouldn't be scared that the requirements will change during the process, right? This is normal. This will help you to not fail at the end, and this will help you to deliver the software and deliver the project as close to the customer expectations as possible. Deliver software frequently. So if you need to fail quickly. Do not wait until the end of the project. That's obvious. Business people and developers work together. This is a little bit what I said before about taking the customer and interact closely with him. But the other thing is that I don't know how your projects look like, but our projects are from really different sectors. So some of them are from the public sector, but we have also companies that produce, we have projects for companies that produce water suppliers, so something like the one that you can see all over the conference place. And we didn't know anything about, of course, the whole process of producing these kind of things. So it is also very important to not talk only with the developers at that moment should interact also with the business part of the customer, right? So with the business that is happening within the customer itself. Build project around motivated individuals, right? I didn't put it bold, but if you do not have a motivated team, probably you need to do something better. Face-to-face conversations. Tickets, probably you are using some kind of ticket software, you are using Bugzilla or Track or whatever. So it is a good way to just also use it as a documentation and keep the history, and then everything is ordered. But sometimes it is easier and better to just have a face-to-face conversation, and instead of describing your problem or a new requirement in the ticket, just show it that, okay, if you do it like that, it breaks here. Please fix it. And then just write a ticket after that. That will be a follow-up of this discussion, right? So having a face-to-face conversation is also very important. Working software in the primary measure of the progress, right? So what I said before, you need to deliver something that is working. This is also, I think, self-explanatory. Attention to technical and design excellence. So you need to focus to not be just good, you need to focus to be perfect. And simplicity is essential, right? So you shouldn't deliver something that is super complex to solve a very basic problem. So that's the 10th one. The 11 is this, and this is, of course, personally for me, the most important one, which is the best architectures and requirements emerge from self-organizing teams. The common mistake a lot of companies, a lot of teams are doing is that they are, if a member of a team found that something is not working, let's say that the deployment process sucks because of, I don't know, a strange script that is not working. It happens really often that nobody says anything. I'm just doing my things. It sucks, okay, but I will do it because the company or my boss or whatever, my responsible person is saying that you should do it, and you are not responding to that. So it helps a lot if you are able to motivate your team, self-organize itself. So if they will find a problem, they will raise a hand or say red alert or something, and they will try to fix it. So that's one of the principles that I found personally very important. And the last thing is retrospective, right? So it is a little bit related to what I just said before. Always try to do not, retrospective is not just pointing hands and saying you are an asshole because you make bugs and so on. No, it's just to help improve the future and the next iteration, right? So it is, and it depends. It is related a little bit. It could be a problem in certain teams, but if you are able to solve this problem, it will give you also a lot of positive feedback. So okay, let's just stop about this talking and focus about something more interesting, which is the two very popular practices. Scrum and Kanban. Who is using in his daily work Scrum and Kanban? Both? Okay, one guy here, perfect. So, yeah, when we started, we decided that we would like to start our agile path or something. Of course, those are the two practices that just arrived. They are the most popular one. And we didn't know exactly which one to choose, so we wanted to see exactly what the Scrum and Kanban is about. If you are not familiar with Scrum, I would just point the most important things. Practically, Scrum is quite complicated for our needs at least. So it introduces some additional artifacts and some roles, and everything is really defined. So you have some things that probably you remember, like sprint backlogs or iterations. Then you have those roles here that are important, and this process is defined in a circle. So everything is really, all the parts of the process is really deeply defined, carefully defined, and you need to stick to it, otherwise it will not work. And in my opinion, and also what we have been testing, I mean, it fits to slightly bigger teams. I will show you later how we are designed as a company, what kind of teams we have, but I think it fits to a bigger teams than to a smaller teams, and we are rather smaller. So that's a Scrum. Kanban is much simpler. I mean, what is the most important, of course, things that is the easiest to remember is the Kanban board, right? So if you have never been using Kanban, think about the ice cream manufacturer, right? So gelateria. So first you need to prepare the ice cream, then you need to deliver to the customer, then you need to collect the money and say goodbye, right? So practically you have the process that everybody is taking one thing, then passing to another, and so on and so on. If something fails, let's say the employee that should deliver the ice cream to the customer fails, the next guy that should take the money practically is useless, right? So you just need to revert and see why it's not happening. So this is practically one of the ideas behind the Kanban. And of course, so practically here, you just define your you define your board. There's this concept, the concept of VIP. So yeah, that at certain state you can have certain limit of tasks. You cannot have more, and so on. So it's very easy. You just move the task between the columns. It's easy to adapt. It can be useful not only in the IT sector, of course. You can use it wherever. Personally, I'm using it also for some personal things that I'm doing, and it fits perfectly. So, okay, so we have the Scrum and Kanban. This is what we have found that could be useful. But how it can be useful? I mean, how really you can use those two practices and the Agile thing in general in your daily company life. So let's talk a little bit about how we are structured as a red turtle. So as you can see here, we are operating since 1999. We have 14 people. And we have mainly 3 teams. So as you can see, the teams are more or less 3-4 people. So this is not really the best team for Scrum. For Kanban, it's slightly better. And we have a lot of projects, and a lot of we have more than 20,000 working hours in the last year, in 2012. So what we have notice, and one of the problems also that is not mentioned here but it's important to say, is that we have a lot of projects that are ongoing. So we have and also different type of projects. We have support projects, we have a tiny little support projects, a long time support projects. Also we have the new customers that arrive and we need to deliver the software and so on. So we have a huge combination of different things, something like a spaghetti. So at a certain moment we said, okay, it was practically last year, more or less in January or February last year. We said, okay, let's just stop for a moment, and we have practically stopped the company for a few weeks. It was even more than a month, and we were starting to actually see what exactly is happening in the company. So we have been trying to define the processes. We have been trying to find what is not working, and how we are practically built, right? So this is what came out. One of the things that is not super important to being agile and so on is the certificate. We have found that maybe in the same time when we will be introducing the agile practices, we will also try to write them down as in some kind of the whole process. I mean, describe it as a manual, and maybe it can be also useful to have a certificate, right? We have been using also this one, I mean, this ISO certificate as some kind of a magic token, right? So you cannot do that because the ISO manual is forbidding you, right? So it was, of course, a little bit like a joke, but it helps sometimes to stop discussing things that are not very important, right? So you can use it as an example. Okay, but how exactly, for this type of company, those two methodologies, those two practices can be useful? And how you can really find what is best for you. So what we did, as I said before, we have stopped the company, and we have started to attend some trainings, first some conferences, trying to attend some local workshops. There is probably, I don't know how it is in the different countries, but in Italy, practically every big city has some XPAC or experience programming group, or this kind of group of people that are interested in agile methodologies. So we have started to attend the one that is in Bologna. We have found a lot of people, a lot of practically freaks that were just, it was something like anonymous, how do you say it in English, the anonymous alcoholics. That somebody raised a hand and said, my boss is not listening to me, and then there was another guy, my employees do not listen to me, and then they were describing their use cases and so on. It was more or less like that, and we exactly do the same thing. We have been discussing what exactly you can do, what exactly, how can Agile, or in this case Kanban or Scrum, can help your internal processes, right? So this was the first thing. Then we also invited some Scrum masters or Kanban masters, or in general the Agile gurus, into the company. We have, as I said, stopped the company for a few weeks. We have made some trainings, workshops, and we have ended up with yes, that Kanban doesn't completely fit to us, neither Scrum. So that was practically, okay, it is not very surprising, but what we actually do, and this is another summary, I don't know if you know Zio Brandor. If you are from Italy, probably you know him, and I really think that this is a very good summary of our journey at that moment, that if you have problems adapting Scrum or Kanban, it really perfectly describes how crappy your organization is, right? So, but anyway, of course, it doesn't mean that we didn't adopt anything, right? We said we would like to have something from Kanban, we would like to have something from Scrum, and we would like to just make it working for us. So, what is left? First, the teams, right? We have defined the teams completely differently than before. We have started to use to watch carefully about the iterations and use them not exactly like the Scrum. I will show you a little bit later how exactly we are using the iterations, but to have something that is not a waterfall but more like a cycle. We have been using Agile, as I told you before, also the ISO certificate as a kind of as a magic wand, right? So just to be able to stop the discussion at a certain moment. We have introduced not more than 1 or 2 new tools or new methods during every Agile meeting, which I think, it is quite important to not scare your employees or your teammates that you are practically changing everything in 1 week. We have found that also the multiple Kanban boards are quite interesting. I know that there are a lot of people probably that will say that is not a good approach, but it fits for us. So we have, for example, the personal boards, but also group boards. For example, we are also using it not only for defining the dev processes, but also for a sale process. We have the sale guys that also using that they are also using Kanban boards to define the whole sales process, right? So the customer arrives, then what happens to the customer, and so on. So it fits really great. Yeah, the PIP. Yeah, practically what we are not doing from this list, because this is our wish list more or less. We are at the beginning of the code review, so we would like to start using it more often. And yeah, write everything. It is, let's say, yeah, not very pleasant job. So we are also trying to describe the processes and use it in the retrospective more carefully. So this is a wish list. Most of them is already working. We are trying to be much more careful to adapt all of those. So if you know more or less what kind of things we have taken from Kanban and from Scrum, let's talk a little bit about the tools, because this will be the second part and I think most interesting. So you can of course use email, right, for a communication or for even assigning tasks or something. I mean, I don't recommend you to do that, but you can do that. For some customers, this is the only way, and this is very advanced way for the customer to communicate with us. We have started telling them at certain moment that please do not phone us anymore if you have a problem, just mail it, because otherwise the conversation is just lost. So they are sometimes using email, but for a normal internal communication, if you want to do it correctly, email is it's not best for that. You can use shared documents, and this is very nice right now. The Google Drive, or you can use Dropbox or any other collaborative shared space. Then if you can of course use for organizing your task, you can use Trello. I don't know who is using Trello. Yeah, a lot of, because it's nice. Kanbanery. Okay, it's also nice. So if you are searching for an online Kanban board, it's not bad. There's also simple management. I think there was a talk before lunch in Italian track. It is based in Plone, also very nice tool. There's also Basecamp and practically a lot of others. The tool is important. I mean, it should fit exactly in the. It should solve most of your company's problems, because if you have a tool that is solving only part of it, then you will really start to suffer. And you will start to make some monkey patching or whatever. This is what I was saying before for self-organizing teams. If you notice that a part of the process is not working and it's making your whole process collapse, then you should really rethink that maybe you should use a better tool. So we have started with using a simple Kanban board with the post-its on the wall, and we are practically still using it sometimes. It works great. It has some limits. Let's say, I don't know, you cannot share it with somebody. We have teams in different countries right now. So you cannot just take the piece of the wall and send it back to Poland, right, for instance. So there are some limits. The benefit is that practically you don't need any additional tool. You don't need to have any additional training accounts. It is just there, right? It is in front of your desk. But anyway, going back to the main subject, the important thing is to find the tool that will really fit into your process. So if you have a very small team, probably the classic Kanban board on the whiteboard is also good. If you have a team that is working online and collaborating, you need to have something online, right? So that's important. Okay, so we have practically made this research. Some of the tools that we were trying to use I have mentioned here, but we didn't find anything that is really working perfectly, that will solve all our problems, and that is most important, that is easily to be extended. Because, for example, I mean, right now using different APIs or using OAuth Authentication and so on, it is not so difficult to connect most of those tools. But I don't know if you have tried to do that, you will, sooner or later, you will find out that there's always a dead end. So and probably you will miss something that will be a big glue, or I don't know, something that will try to keep all those applications together. So we didn't find anything, so we have done our own. It is called Penelope. You can find it on GitHub. The code is still on a very heavy development. Probably it will be refactored in the next few months, few times. So do not use it on a production environment, or just if you just want to see all the examples that I will show you in a moment, you can just try it. So it is made mainly in Pyramid. It is written mainly in Pyramid, and those are practically the tools we have integrated inside, right? So there's of course the Google Apps. There is Track, because apart of the fact that the user interface of Track sucks and so on, but we have rewritten it. So we have taken the most important parts of the Track that we like and we are used to it, and we have thrown away everything else, and it works pretty well. There's also Mandrill. I don't know who is familiar with Mandrill. MailChimp. Okay, so if you are using MailChimp, there's another product from the same company, Mandrill. It is a transactional, how do you say it? Anyway, you can send emails with that, sorry. It is really nice. It has huge community, a lot of plugins, and it has a very clean API. It is super stable. So if you need to send emails and your application is sending a lot of emails and you will want to have better control on that, Mandrill is really great. And we are also using Sentry. I don't know, Sentry, anybody is using Sentry? Yeah, it's more popular probably because it's in Django. So that's more or less the tools we have integrated in Penelope. So Penelope practically is a wrapper for most of those tools. We have written some views. I will show you some dashboards and so on, just to take the data from different applications. But the most important thing of Penelope itself, this is just a big integrator, right? It's just a big bucket in which we are putting the data, sucking the data from different providers. So just to show you how Penelope is actually working, I would like to invite you to a project journey. Just to show you how we are managing projects using the tool. So practically starting from a very, very basic scratch when the customer arrives and you just need to create the space for it, until the moment when the project is already finished and you are collecting bugs and you are supporting it, right? So I hope you will enjoy it. So yeah, this is more or less the dashboard that I was talking before. And this is actually right now this is the wizard in which you are able to create a new project. So when the project manager arrives and he needs to create a new space for the new projects, he enters into this wizard and he's creating the documentation space. As you can see, there was the Google documentation before. He creates new users, so he can choose from existing one or he can create new ones. Then you have the milestones, which is the milestones exactly the one that are in Track. There's of course the due date and so on. Then there are the customer requests, which I think I will stop for a second because it is interesting to say. We have called iterations customer requests. We didn't want to call them user stories because they are not exactly user stories. This is something more abstractional. Because the customer request is exactly what it is saying. I mean, this is something that the customer requests. So it is super flexible. It can be something like, I need a CMS. If you want this granularity, it can be like that. But it can be also, I need this widget, or I need this portlet, or I need to change the skin of my portal, or I need an e-commerce shop or something. It depends how the project manager would like to use it, right? So this is more or less like that. So you can of course define here and also give some estimations how much time each role will spend on each customer request, and finally you have a contract, right? So every project needs to have a contract. So when you create the project, you finish the wizard, you get something like that. So you are practically, this is the context of your project. You can see the documentations part, so the Google applications, the documents are automatically integrated. This is not the iframe, it's just practically using the API. You have the customer requests, contracts, everything is bind together. So part of it lives in the Penelope itself, most of it lives in different applications, third-party applications and so on. So, yeah, you can just see the Google Doc. Here you have the list of the customer requests, and here, for example, you have a track, right? We have been switching between the different applications. The user interface still is the same. If you notice, in a second, maybe, go. If you notice right now, stop. Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, for instance, here you have always the path bar, so the breadcrumbs always keeps you in the same context. So you are switching applications, but you are always staying in the same user interface. So that is quite important. So that was the track. This is practically right now the customer request, and finally the reports. So the reports are the part that we need to write, because it's the reports that are in track are nice, but they are for completely different use cases. We needed the reports that can be used for project managers, for developers, but also for the customers. So we have just written our own report library. So it is quite fast and quite flexible. You can search for whatever you want, right? You can search per user what he was using, what he was doing in the last week, what is the consummation for each project. Practically each questions you will have can be answered here. And of course, it can be also downloaded as an XLS or as a JSON. So this is more or less what the project manager is doing, right? He's creating the space for the project. He defines documentations, and then practically his job is done at that moment. Okay. Sorry, I think I need to do this. Yeah, now we have the customer. So the customer, and this is also important, it was also important for us, the customer arrives in exactly the same user interface, so that we don't have two different applications for collecting bugs and so on. The customer arrives at the same place. Of course, the security is showing them much less, so he's not able to see everything, but he's, for example, able to see the track, he's able to see the tickets, not all of them, but some of them. He's able to see the documentation. Again, the security controls which docs he can see or not. He can also create a new ticket, make a comment, practically use the track like a normal customer, right? So this was also one of the reasons why we need to redefine the user interface, because for a normal customer the track interface really sucks, so you cannot just take the customer and gives him a normal track, right? So this is, okay, this is the track, and this is what the customer is normally doing. What we have found really really nice. I mean, the customers' experience, because we were collecting a little bit what the customers thinks about it. Of course, there are some that they don't like anything. They don't even like the fact that they need to send an email. But for most of the customers, the experience of the user interface was really pleasant, and they said, okay, it is nice that they have full control. You remember when I told you that we would like to take the customer and invite him to be a part of the team, if it's possible. This is one of the ways to do that, right? So if the customer wants to know exactly where the project is, he doesn't need to ask, he can just log in and see it. Okay, last part is the developer. Again, the same interface, he can see his tickets, what the project, in the project he's working right now. He can go to the track, edit it, and so on. This is the normal thing. Additionally, what the developer has is the time management, because it should be there in a second, because this is what we are interested to collect. So when you have a ticket that you are working on, let's say you are creating a new design and you want to say, okay, I did this and this is the URL. I would like to say also how much time I have spent without changing the context. So of course, there are some plugins for Track to do that, but they all suck in my opinion. So we have also done it in our custom way. Okay, let's just review it to the customer, and then let's add a new time. Okay, there's a button. As you can see here, there's a nice dialog, and you can just automatically fill in the information that goes to another applications and say, okay, I was working for that ticket for, I don't know, 2 hours, and that's it. And this part is done. I'm not switching the contexts. I don't need to log in somewhere else. I'm staying with the ticket, and that's it. Okay, here we have the validation, and that's it. So, and the job is done. There's also another way of doing it. This is also Sentry. So if you are familiar with Sentry, that's really okay. I have only 10 minutes, so I need to speed up. So I will not tell anything about Sentry. There's another way of adding new time entries. You can do it from the ticket, but you can also log into your dashboard and say, okay, I was working today for that project, and so on. The interface is taken a little bit from Remember the Milk. If you are familiar with their task, this is a task management, very, very nice. We have been trying to do something similar that will be fast, and so on. So let's go to another part. I will show you a little bit the code, because that was not very interesting, probably because you are all a little bit sleepy. So what was really interesting at the beginning is the OAuth Authentication. I don't know if you have been attending my Valorous talk before, I think yesterday. We wanted to, as you probably noticed, we have been really using a lot of different third-party applications. So, we have been dancing with the OAuth tokens a lot. So we didn't want to just do it manually for each provider and so on. So we have been using Valorous. If you do not know Valorous, I strongly advise you to just Google it. It's a great application. It is just a proxy. So instead of communicating directly Google and Facebook and whatever, and Dropbox, for instance, you just connect directly to Valorous, and Valorous is taking responsibility for all the rest, and he's responding you with the full credentials. So it's super easy. This is actually everything you need to define for a Google consumer, right? So if you want to make a Google OAuth authentication and you are using Valorous, you just specify the customer key and secret, and that's it. So the next thing is the Google Drive integration. So I showed you before, if we define the project, you just say, okay, this is my collection of documents from Google Docs that I would like to be part of my project. And you can view those documents from Penelope, or you can also use Google Drive as a normal user. So you can modify everything from using their interface, right? So this is practically the way we did it. You can do it in multiple different ways. Practically here, what was important for us is to be able to gracefully fail over in the situation that you do not have permission to view this document. So instead of having a crappy thing, we have just a notification that this is the URL for your document, but according to our information, you cannot see it. So it is just a simple decorator. Then there's a track. You already saw the track. It is also integrated directly in Penelope, so the interfaces are working together. It is working on the same WSGI pipeline with Pyramid pretty well. What we have trying to do, and probably this will be very heavily refactored in a few weeks and even months, is the ticket store. We didn't want to have a direct integration with track, so we wanted to be able to switch between different ticket software or whatever you call it. So I don't know, if you like Redmine instead of track or something else, you should be able to plug in. So we have invented some kind of abstraction layer, which is called that iTicket store, taken a little bit from the Zob component architecture. So those are the 3 methods that you actually need to implement for your software to be able to communicate. This is working, but it is really slow. So because this is for track using XMRPC protocol, so it is practically very, very slow if you have, 200 tracks to interrogate. So instead of doing it like that, we have changed back to use directly SQL. So it is not yet fully working. We would like to refactor it so it will really be pluggable. Not last, but the next thing is the Deform calendar. This is practically the standard way to define forms. What is nice about it, this is the wizard that you have I have shown you before. It was done practically fully in Deform. It is so easy to do it. I don't know who is familiar with Deform. Okay, so which actually form library you are using regularly? Django. Okay, so if you are not using Django and you need to do something else, Deform is really good. It is so easy that even our project managers that have very low IT knowledge because they were developing in the Middle Ages, they are able to take the Deform and just write their own forms if they need it, so it is really good. For example, this wizard was written by one of the project managers in a few days, something like that, with the full validations, and they have even fun with that. So this is exactly a very small example of the Deform form taken from their documentation, so I will not describe it because I have only 6 minutes. It looks like that. Mandrill, this is nice. This is the ticket notifications that Mandrill is right now sending. This full, right? So if you remember the track notifications, how the email looks like, it really sucks. So try to send this kind of email to your customer, and then I don't know, I mean, probably they will phone you that there's some kind of spammer and whatever. So they don't understand the standard track notifications. There's a plugin or a monkey patch to change it to HTML notification, but it still sucks, so we didn't do it. So instead of doing like that, we have tried to use Mandrill. So you can actually define a template in Mandrill, and what you need to do from track is only to put all the parameters that you are interested in, like description, URL, I don't know, author, whatever, priority, all those things, fill into the SMTP header, custom header, and this will be sent to Mandrill, and Mandrill will understand exactly, because it is in the template that is in Mandrill, it will understand where to take, which data to take and where to put it. And then you have a very nice template that you have also some kind of analytics inside, so you know exactly if the customer was deleting automatically your notification, or he was displaying it, and how often, and so on. So it is really nice. Then there is a Sentry. We did a small plugin for Sentry, just to be able to take, what is Sentry? Because probably not all of you are using it. So Sentry is a very nice application that is automatically collecting all the potential errors that your applications are throwing. So instead of checking all the error logs of multiple applications, you can just check Sentry and you know exactly if something bad is happening. So normally when you get a Sentry entry, you would like to say, okay, this is a bug, I would like to have a new ticket in the track or in Penelope. So instead of doing it manually by copy-pasting the try, accept, and so on, you have a plugin. It is also on GitHub and on PyPy. You can just install it if you are using Penelope, of course. And that's it. You need to just implement the create issue method that is actually connecting to track and creating new ticket. And if there's an error of the validation, just raise it. So instead of manually doing it, you can just click the button in Sentry and it will automatically create you an issue. The last but not least is the full text search. We are using Solar, so we are populating everything we have to Solar, also from tracks. So we have around 200 tracks right now, and we are putting everything into Solar. It has started to be our very nice knowledge base. We are using it very often, so we have one unified interface for searching it. So we are still developing it according to our needs. And we have started it, we have found it very, very useful because most of our projects are very similar. So I don't know, probably 2 years ago or 1 year ago I have this bug and I have fixed it, but I didn't really did it carefully, so I didn't commit it back the patch to and so on. But I would like to see exactly what I did. So before having it like that, I didn't remember exactly the project name. So I just remember that it was about some kind of a strange applet or whatever. So right now I can just type whatever I remember, and using the Solar search engine, probably I have a very big chance that I will find exactly the ticket or change set or whatever, right? That was related to that. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any question?
Hi, thanks for the presentation. I probably missed it, but I was wondering, what do you use for the UI itself? Some kind of HTML framework, or is it?
Yeah, this is Twitter Bootstrap. So.
Oh, I see. Okay, that's why it looks familiar. Sorry, one more thing. Track is built on top of setup tools and has all those entry points.
Yes.
It really is very extendable because of that. Why do you use this strange SOAP interface and RPC calls instead of just plugging into this infrastructure?
Which exactly endpoints do you mean?
I don't remember all the entry points that track.
The reason why we are using it like that, this is the example I show you about the ticket store. Maybe I didn't say it carefully. I mean, this is the Penelope part. So using this abstraction layer, you are able to plug in right now track. But if you would like to use Redmine, you just need to implement how to get the ticket for milestone, for example.
Yeah.
And right now, we are using XML-RPC, for example, to get it from track. So we are not re-implementing those kind of endpoints. We are using it directly. But it's important that you can say that for this project, I'm using Redmine, but for this project, I'm using track. And everything else is working just automatically because of this abstraction layer, which is the minimal implementation you need to provide that the whole communication is working.
Okay, but you could go a little bit lower and use the entry points from tracks. Just import the. I mean.
Okay, so if you have later,
okay,
maybe
we can try that.
Them, so
okay,
we can reuse it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
More questions?
Okay. So,
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.